Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa and this is going to be my mid-March wrap-up. This video is going to come out during the trans rights readathon, so I want you to direct your attention to that. A lot of it is going on Book Talk, but it is also going on BookTube and I presume Book Twitter. It is a readathon focusing on trans authors, and the point of which is to raise money for trans people, whether it be the Trans Legal Defense Fund, the Trevor Project, local trans homeless shelters, or individual trans people, and I will also link the Trevor Project and the Trans Legal Defense Fund below. I will also be putting out a vlog of what I was reading this week and will be putting up daily updates on TikTok. I left out that I am also using this opportunity to direct funds to Bree, who's a trans disabled person that I have been promoting the GoFundMe of for the last few months. They are still in need of daily survival funds, as well as medical expenses. And if you want to take part, you can either pledge a certain amount of money per the amounts of books that I read, or just a set amount, or you could just share the GoFundMe. Any way that you want to support would be appreciated. And of course you can take part by doing that for any of the other people who are raising money in this readathon, or you can just read trans books. But the links to the GoFundMe will be below, as well as those charities I mentioned. Now, on to the books that I have read so far this month. My stack is in reverse order of when I read them, so I'll start with, I don't usually talk about rereads, but I decided I wanted to talk about this one. I reread The Kiss Quotient in its entirety. Usually I just pick out key parts that I really like and reread, but I decided to do the whole thing this time. And I read it for about 3 hours one morning and had a good cry about my autistic feelings and the joy of seeing an autistic woman be accepted and loved, and also some of the painful things that the FMC goes through that I related to a lot. It's really freaking good. It is in contention for my favorite romance ever. I listened to the audiobook of The Merciless Ones. I thought this was a duology, but apparently there's going to be another book because this ended when the story was not over. It further explores the world a lot, and there's lots of mysteries to solve. And we have further characterization and development of the relationships between characters that we were already introduced to in the first book, and I really liked where those went. And yeah, very tear down the world type stuff going on. So yeah, it's hard to talk too much about this as it is a sequel. Lots more fighting and being epic and cool powers and women being amazing. Really enjoyed it. 4 stars to The Merciless Ones. Then, with the last of my Christmas money, I bought myself the 4 most recently translated volumes of Snow White with the Red Hair. I really, really love this series. It brings me so much joy. Even though some things didn't work out the way I wanted them to in the book right before these, the volume right before these, I still love the story and the characters. Yeah, at some point I will do a reread of the whole series. The beginning premise is a prince asks who is the fairest in all the land, and everybody says there's this young woman with gorgeous red hair, and so he sends for her and she runs away and ends up being rescued by the prince of next door kingdom, and then makes friends with him and his 2 attendants. I love herbalists, and I love all of the characters are just so wonderful. I love their development and how characters you don't like at first have redemption arcs, and characters you do like at first get further developed and you like them even more. So yeah, I'm gonna follow this series, and these 4 new volumes were lovely, and we're going on a new little arc as the last volume before these concluded an arc. Speaking of manga, Using my Christmas money to buy new Snow White with the red hair reminds me of other manga that I want to read. So about once a year, I buy new ones of those, and then I also look up Yona of the Dawn to see if any more of those have been translated. And about 10 more of those have been translated as opposed to just 4. So I'm catching up on those. I've read 2 so far. That one is a much more violent story, less slice of life-ish, and has a lot of war going on. Its premise is that the princess of a kingdom at, I think, 16 sees her father murdered by her best friend, one of her 2 best friends. They have a little trio, and then is rescued by her other best friend, and they run away together and have to escape because the murderer is after the throne, and so he can't leave this other heir alive. Yeah, Frodo, he pawed at the cat door in my door like he couldn't get through. You didn't try very hard. No, I'm not gonna get up and open the door for you. You did not try. I immediately started rooting for the 2 remaining best friends to get together, partially because I love a friends to lovers romance. I also love a bodyguard romance, and he is her bodyguard. So that really pulls me through the series. But I also really love the magical people who come along to be their friends, and the totally non-magical regular person who becomes their friend, and the themes of kindness, and even when you're in danger, working to help other people who are in danger, and giving what little you have to help other people. Love all of those themes. Then we have Juliet Takes a Breath, the graphic novel edition. I really like, where's an early page, the art style. I think it's really, I like all the soft edges and the color schemes. It has like a few different color schemes that it uses throughout the book, and like it switches up color schemes when she like moves to a different location where she's where that part of the story takes place. So I find that really cool. And this is about a young Latinx woman who is quite new to feminism and social justice in general, and finds a book about feminist liberation by a white queer woman, and wants to intern for this woman. At the same time she's doing that, she's going to come out to her family just before she leaves to move across the country to intern. Most of her family's actually pretty great about it, just her mother specifically kind of rains on the whole parade. And then she moves across the country and meets this woman who is not really that great of an intern director person to like get her credit for what she's doing. And she also meets this woman's friends who are queer women of color. Really recommend. And if you like graphic novels, I would recommend reading the graphic novel version. So I'm going to let Future Me review a couple more books for you and do the closeout. So see you then. Okay, so I ended up reading 10 of the Yona of the Dawn volumes, the last 10 that have come out and been translated. These are 7 of them. I also read some on ebook from my library. Then I also read Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. As usual, I love Talia Hibbert's writing. I think she excels particularly at banter, feelings, and representation. Own voices fat representation, and also chronically ill representation, autistic representation, and in this case OCD, which our guy main character has, and then our lady main character has a few autistic traits which tend to pop up in Talia Hibbert's characters, whether or not that person's actually canonically autistic, because authors tend to put a lot of their own personalities, little, bits of their personalities into different characters, so that tends to happen. I was starting to have a bit of a reading slump, when I first started this, so I had to put it down and try other books like Manga that really helped me get back into reading. So then when I got back to this, I read it really quickly and really enjoyed it. This is Telly Hibbert's first YA and is about some high schoolers who are going on this expedition or pair of expeditions to try to win a scholarship that involves camping. And their enemies right now used to be best friends, had a major breakup of the friendship about 3 or 4 years ago, and then now they're in kind of forced proximity because they both want this scholarship, and so this is enemies to friends to lovers situation, and I really like the way that was handled, and I think that their being enemies makes sense because of the way the friendship breakup happened. And there's also a lot about them trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives and even what they want to do at university, because they're right at the point where they need to start applying to universities, and they're both struggling with their parents having too much power over what they want to do, whether it's her going a certain direction despite her absent father or him trying to emulate his father. And I like the way that those emotional issues were worked out and how it shows our FMC dealing with the fact that she usually deals with emotional problems by avoiding it, which basically started with her dad's abandonment. And that's just her main coping mechanism now, and how she learns that she has to switch from that coping mechanism because it's not serving her well, and starts to process her emotional troubles. I really enjoyed all of those aspects, and I gave Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute 5 stars. Then I read Fall Into You, which is a book by an indie trans author who I found on TikTok. It's just a short little one, 65 pages, and it is a FF romance between two ladies who were childhood friends and now have bumped back into each other when they moved to the same town. Friends to Lovers is a favorite of mine. This is very cute and sweet, and I gave it 5 stars. Then Empress of Salt and Fortune. This, oh, where did I hear this recommended? I've seen it a few different places. I decided to pick it up because of Yasmin B. Readin's top 10 books of 2022. Yeah, this is a story within a story, and it's also fairly short, like maybe 120 pages, and it is basically about an exiled wife of the king, who had no power as far as official power in the kingdom, scheming to take over said kingdom. And you learn a lot about her relationship with Rabbit, who is kind of the main character, who is telling the story to a non-binary priest who is like someone who records all sorts of histories. And yeah, I really like stories about women being brilliant, so I enjoyed that, and characters that are very loyal, which Rabbit is. And I really like the storytelling format, the story within a story, and how it slowly unfolds, and how Rabbit keeps things that are close to her heart back longer, rather than necessarily having it unfold in a strictly chronological sense. And also how items hold histories, because a lot of the stories that Rabbit tells are prompted by things that the priest finds in the house that Rabbit lived with the Empress in. And as someone who very much depends on physical objects to prompt my brain to recall memories, I resonated with that a lot, and I gave Empress of Salt and Fortune 5 stars. Also listened to Love is a Revolution, which is a book about a young fat black girl who wants to be liked by a boy who is very socially aware and is a bit of an activist, who is friends with her sister cousin, who is also an activist, but our main character is not one, but she pretends to be one and to be much more socially conscious than she is to get the boy to like her. And obviously this is doomed to fail from the start because lies are always found out. Especially very easy to find out ones like that. And several times the people around her, including the boy she likes, talk about how much they don't like liars. That is one part of it, but the point of it, and what relates back to the title, is how loving yourself, family members, and the people close to you is just as important as a social activist. And if you leave behind loving the people close to you for your activism, that's not so great. And also that you shouldn't change yourself for a boy. Something I want to note is that at 2 different times he notices that she is not socially conscious enough for him. One time because she's not able to make a good speech at an activist meeting, and one time because she drinks out of plastic water bottles and throws them away, or recycles them but doesn't use a reusable water bottle. So he gets her 2 very judgy gifts to fix those problems. So obviously she's wrong for lying to him, but he's also a bit of a little... He only gives her 2 gifts and both of them are judgy gifts and are kind of attempts at changing her, which is extremely unattractive. But our girl's just a teenager, so while she gets irritated at those, she doesn't like fully, I think, recognize that those are like red flags. So anyway, as a romance, I didn't like it. I think they should have been broken up at the end. I didn't like the way either of them treated the other. Yeah, as a romance, not great, but the other stuff about the value of family, and about you being good enough the way you are, I liked all of that stuff. So I ended up giving Love is a Revolution 3.5 stars. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to leave an emoji, how about a bird? Because there is a prominent bird in Empress of Salt and Fortune. I will see you in the next video. Bye!